Alrighty, welcome everybody to the presentation. I'm Trevor, and I am going to host this. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about eBay fees. And seeing that it's May 1st, 2015, there's been a recent change in the eBay fees. eBay announced it a couple of months ago, and then as of today, it's been implemented. And so I'm going to show you guys some resources that you can look at. And then I'm also going to explain to you exactly how eBay fees work, so that you can make sure you're pricing products correctly and you're not caught off guard if you get a fee from eBay. You'll know what it is and why you're getting it and all the rest of it. So let's jump right in. You should be able to see my screen right now. I want to summarize eBay fees very simply first, and then we'll get into the details of them. But number one, there's two types of eBay fees. And really, I should probably put three, because you have two types of eBay fees and then you have a PayPal fee. So those are the three things you always have to account for when you're listing something for sale on eBay. Let me talk about the eBay ones first, and then we'll talk about the PayPal ones right after that. So let me zoom in here so you guys can see this a little bit better. Here are the two types of eBay fees right here, okay? So we've got what's called an insertion fee, and then we've got what's called a final value fee, okay? An insertion fee is just that. It's when you list something onto eBay, eBay may charge you just for putting it onto their website, okay? Now, as you see in parentheses right out to the side here, it says the price to list an item is really what an insertion fee is, but you get the first 20 free during the month, or during like a normal calendar month. So it's May 1st today. That means over the course of May, I could list 20 separate items on eBay, and they wouldn't cost me a penny just to list. There would be no insertion fee. But when I got to my 21st item and I submitted list on eBay, I would get charged a small insertion fee, and that small insertion fee is 30 cents, okay? So my 21st item, 30 cents is what I'm going to get charged. On my 22nd item, 30 cents. On my 23rd item, 30 cents. On my 24th item, 30 cents. You get where I'm going with this. For every single item subsequently that you list, it's going to be 30 cents, okay? Now, it doesn't seem like a big deal. A lot of you guys probably don't care about throwing away 30 cents every time you put up a listing. And for bigger businesses, you don't even hardly feel it, because you're making sales, you're making more than enough money to make up for the small insertion fee. But for smaller companies and just individuals that are just starting to sell, if you've got a lot of stuff to list, the 30 cents is something you can feel in a hurry. You know, you list 3 more items and boom, you've almost spent just $1 in insertion fees. And this type of fee, it doesn't matter if you sell the eBay item or not, you're going to get hit with this fee. So that happens no matter what. Now, there's a couple of different kinds of ways that you could list something. You could do what's called a buy it now, or what's called a fixed price. So I'll write that right here. Let me just make a note. You can either do, so I'll say 1, or make this make a little more sense. A, you can do fixed price, and that's also called buy it now. Or you can do B, an auction, okay? Now you get 20 free total listings. So if you do 19 buy it nows and 1 auction, those are all going to be free. You could do 10 fixed price or buy it now and 10 auction, and those will all be free. It's on your 21st. No matter what format it is, it's going to cost you that 30 cents. But there are some exceptions, okay? And let me just kind of go through some of these exceptions. Before I do, though, I want to make a note here to you guys to make this make a little bit more sense. Sometimes when you're listing an item on eBay, you may list it for a longer duration or a shorter duration. So you have the choice when you're creating your listing. You could do like a a 3-day listing or a 5-day or a 7-day, a 10-day, a 30-day. So those are called listing durations. Well, so over the course of a month, let's say I take an item and I list it as a 7-day, okay? So I've got a 7-day listing, and it goes 7 days, and it falls off, and it ends. So that's my first listing. Well, if I relist it for another 7 days, that counts as another listing of my 20 free. So if all my listings are 7-day listings, then over the course of a month, I might relist the same item 4 times to keep it live on eBay over the course of a month. Well, that would count as 4 of my 20 free. So relists count. I guess that's the point I want to make. When you're looking at insertion fees, relisting does count. So keep that in mind. Some of my clients prefer to do 30-day listings so that they don't have to relist it. But there's pros and cons to each, and I'm not going to really talk about the pros and cons of that right this second. I just want you guys to understand the way that impacts the insertion fee. Okay? All right. So that's the insertion fee. The big change, though, for May 2015 is that if you did an auction, let's say one of my listings was an auction and I sold it, then they'll refund me that 30-cent insertion fee. So eBay's trying to encourage us to do more auctions, and I don't think that's necessarily a good or a bad thing. It is what it is. I prefer more fixed price listings, honestly, but some things are better for an auction, and you would get a refund of 30 cents if you sold your auction. Okay? So that's insertion fees. Questions on that, guys? For those of you guys that are here live, does that make sense? Is there anything I can clarify there on the insertion fee part of things? And if we're good, we'll go ahead and move on. I'm gonna start moving on, but you can ask questions if you want to. So that's number one. That's your insertion fee. Now, number two, which is the more substantial of the two, is called the final value fee. And the final value fee is a 10% commission to eBay every single time you sell something. So if I list something for $50 and I list it for 7 days and it doesn't sell, well, I don't pay the final value fee because this only applies when it does sell. Depending on what item it was, if it was my 25th listing of the month, then I probably paid this 30-cent fee for the insertion just to put it onto eBay, but I wouldn't have a final value fee. Now, in the same scenario, if it's a $50 item I listed for 7 days and it was my 5th listing of the month, there would be no insertion fee. But if I sold it, eBay is going to charge me 10%. Okay? So on my $50 sale, multiply that by 0.10 for 10%. eBay takes, right? They take $5 from me. That goes out to that's called the final value fee. So that's their commission. A lot of people complain about that final value fee. They say it's too high. It's not fair. They take such a big chunk. And I understand where those complaints come from because it is a pretty substantial chunk of what I just sold. But you got to remember, it's a privilege to use the eBay system. eBay spends millions of dollars advertising every single year. They have millions of people that are on there shopping, and you just get to access those people without spending any money. This is kind of like your cost for doing that. So that's how eBay makes money. That's how they stay in business. And so although 10% might seem a little high, it's pretty fair considering the fact that they're just sending you customers. Okay, that's called your final value fee. Again, that only really happens or gets billed to you if you make a sale. So we'll just make sure we calculate that final value fee into what we're doing, and then it's not a big deal. You've got that priced into the price of your product, and we'll do an example of that here in just a second. So there you go, final value fee. Now, I said there were three. There's 2 eBay fees and there's 1 PayPal fee. When you sell something on eBay, it's transacted typically through PayPal. And PayPal takes 2.9% of the transaction. So in the same example, we just said we sold something for $50 and eBay is taking their 10% of that. Well, PayPal takes 2.9%. And so I could multiply that. I could say $50 times 0.029. And that's how you can do the math on that percentage. Take 50 and multiply that by 0.029. That's 2.9%. And that'll give you your fee. And in this case, that would be $1.45, okay? Plus this part right here. Every single transaction that takes place, they also charge an additional 30 cents above and beyond the 2.9%. So that means we'll have to add 0.30 and equals, that'll give us a grand total of $1.75 that goes out the door to PayPal, okay? Right, not too big of a deal. You sell something for 50 bucks, they're taking 3%. And that's very common in the merchanting world. If you go to the grocery store and you buy $50 worth of groceries and you take out a credit card and you slide it through their credit card machine, well, the grocery store is paying somewhere in the neighborhood of, 1.5 to 2.5%, 3%. They're probably not paying quite as much, but there's a transaction fee for anybody who accepts credit cards. And so this is very common. PayPal will actually take that right away. So if I found your product listed for $50 on eBay right now, and I'm your customer, and I bought it, PayPal would take that money on the spot. So I would get $50 in my PayPal account minus their $1.75. That's what would show up into my PayPal account. And then later, the way eBay does it for their fees, which I'll show you guys here in just a minute, they'll bill you once a month. They'll send you an invoice and they'll say, hey, you owe us $75 for final value fees and insertion fees incurred over the month. So let's say we're in May right now, over the course of the 30 days that you were selling on eBay in May, here's what your bill is. I'll show you where to find that here in just a second. And you got to pay that bill. If you don't pay that bill, you won't be selling on eBay again, right? So that's just part of the gig. PayPal takes it immediately. eBay sends you a bill about it once a month or whatever. Okay. So questions about that so far, guys, or is that pretty clear? You guys that are here live, stop me and tell me if I need to clarify anything as we go. All right. So let me show you where I get all this information, so that you have a reference. So if you have more questions, you can reference what I'm talking about. Let me stop for just a second. Brenda, you said, does PayPal charge you the 30 cents to pay eBay? What do you mean exactly? So you said you're asking, does PayPal charge you the 30 cents to pay eBay? I don't think so. I think that 30 cents, it's very common in the merchanting world. Most merchants have some sort of what they would call a transaction fee of some sort, and so I don't think that money's going to eBay. Although you do need to know that eBay and PayPal are basically the same company. They're just different branches, so it's all kind of the same, if that makes sense. All right, so let me show you these couple of web addresses real quick. Okay, this first one right here, pages.ebay.com/help/sell/fees.html. This has been completely updated as of today. I want to show you what this looks like. I'm going to paste it into my browser here. And it basically says what we just talked about, okay? But I want to show it to you. They talk about the insertion fee. It says when you list an item on eBay, you may be charged a listing or insertion fee. And it goes into more detail than we did. There's some little exclusions and some different things that apply, but in essence, it's what I explained to you guys. And then you've got the final value fee. It says if the item sells, you're charged a final value fee, and that's if and only if the item sells. Final value fees are calculated based on the total amount of the sale and are charged per item. And an important note on that, guys, is if you charge $50, but you also charge $10 for shipping, you're not gonna pay $5 for your final value fee. eBay is gonna charge you 10% on the shipping as well. So that's $60. You'll be charged $6 additionally from eBay over the final value fee. Okay? So they charge it on shipping, just so that we're clear. All right, so let me show you this little diagram that they've got here. Okay, you guys should be able to see that. Starting right here, it says basic fees for auction style and fixed price listings. Okay, this is assuming you don't have an eBay store. Where this all becomes more affordable, if you're a bigger seller, you can upgrade to what's called an eBay store. And if you're listing hundreds, if not thousands of items a month, you're not going to be paying 30 cents per listing. There's a way to get that reduced. I'll maybe comment on that in a minute, but this is just for normal sellers who don't have a store subscription, okay? So here you go. Your first 20 listings per month are free, okay? And that's for the insertion fee. And then it says over here the final value fee is 10%. With a maximum final value fee, I guess if you sold something extremely expensive for like $100,000, they can't charge you more than $750, okay? That's your total it could cost you. And then right here, all additional listings. So once you hit that 21st listing per month, and this resets every 30 days, it says your next 20 auction style listings, if listed in the collectibles category, are free. Okay, so really, in essence, you get 20 free listings, and you can list whatever you want for those 20, and then your next 20 are going to cost you 30 cents a piece unless they're in the collectibles category. Well, what would be, or what would sort of be considered collectibles? Well, here you go. Here's your list of collectibles categories. But they've got to be auction style listings, by the way. You can't do fixed price. These have got to be auction style, and these would remain free for your next 20. Antiques, art, coins and money, collectibles, dolls and bears, entertainment memorabilia, pottery and glass, sports memorabilia, stamps, toys and hobbies. So that would be free for you if you did those as an auction. But generally speaking, for most of our clients, who are listing in a variety of different categories, that next one, that 21st, is going to charge you that 30 cents, okay? All right, so, and you could scroll down, and there's some additional things about fees. You know, if you were adding a subtitle, or you were adding more than 12 pictures, or you're bolding your title, these are all listing upgrades that are extremely expensive and not very practical for the typical seller. So I wouldn't do a lot of your listing upgrades. You'll see it as you're creating a listing. You'll have an option to choose some of these upgrades. You don't need any of them. I feel like they're probably just a way that, you know, eBay nickel and dimes us to death a little bit, and it's just not something you need. So anyway, I won't go through the rest of this because there's a lot of little nuances that won't apply to most of you guys. But if you want to read through this in detail, you guys now have the address. It's just right here. That's eBay's official policy on their fees. Feel free to read that over. And if you never have before, I think you should, just to make sure you're very clear on things. But what I covered so far is absolutely the essentials. That's the stuff that's going to apply to most of you guys. Now, here's another link right here that I want to show you. Okay, it's a little longer, so I won't read it. But it looks like, I'll just give you a sec to look at it. If you need to take a note of it, you can, or pause the video to see it if this is recorded. But it's this one right here, pages.ebay.com/sellerinformation, etc. This is the page right here. And this is, as you can see, it says effective as of May 1st, 2015. And it's got a nice looking diagram to follow to help you understand your fees a little bit better, okay? So if you don't have what's called an eBay store, you would fall under this column right here, standard fees, okay? And then if you do have an eBay store, right over here, your options and your fees are just slightly different, okay? Going through the standard fees, we already talked about it. You can list up to 20 items a month for free. And it shows you this right here. All categories up to 20 are free. Additional 20 need to be in the collectibles, and they need to be auction style listings only. We talked about that. And then it shows you your insertion fees right here. After your 20, you're going to get charged 30 cents per auction style and 30 cents per fixed, okay? And then you have a 10% final value fee. So this diagram lays out what we talked about perfectly, right? All right, well, if we go back up, if you're a higher volume lister, and many of you guys, especially you guys here in my program with me, who are really turning eBay not into such a hobby, but more of a real money-making type of business, you're going to eventually upgrade to an eBay store. And I would tell you to chat with your coach before you do this, and just consult with him or her about when it would be appropriate to get an eBay store. I want to just briefly explain what that means. So an eBay store, you pay a monthly fee. You can pay 16 bucks a month if you pay for an entire year. You'll just have to pay that all up front, and that ends up being $16 a month. Or you can just go month to month for 20 bucks a month, and this is for a basic store. There's three kinds of stores. There's a basic, a premium, and an anchor. An anchor is for, of course, larger companies. Premium is more of a medium-sized company, and most of you guys would be in the basic store category. Okay? You scroll down here, and the big advantage of a store, at least one of them, is that you get 150 listings for free, whereas you only got 20 if you don't have a store. But you might say, well, wait a minute, Trevor. Well, but I'm paying monthly for it, right? Well, you are. You're paying whatever, 20 bucks a month to have these additional options. But if you think about it, 20 bucks, what's 30 cents into $20? It's 30 cents goes into 20 66 times. If you list, upwards of close to 86 or more listings per month, that's kind of like your break-even point. If you're up in that region, 86 listings a month, it's going to make sense for you to get a store. And most of you guys will be. 86 listings is not a lot of listings in a month. It might sound that way, but it's not. And so that's about the time you want to get a store, because that extra insertion fee cost is going to break even at about that point, okay? So anyway, you've got up to 150 free if you've got a store, which is a huge bonus. Now, what's nice is after you hit your threshold of 150, you get an additional 100 free if you're in the collectibles category, so that's pretty substantial. And then what's nice is your insertion fees go down after that. So your 151st listing, rather than being 30 cents, instead it would be 25 if it's an auction and 20 if it's fixed price, if it's a buy it now. So you get a reduction in your insertion fees, a pretty substantial one. And you can see those get more and more substantial as you get a higher level store, okay? And then one of my favorite benefits of a store is that you get a deduction here in your final value fee. So if you have a basic premium or anchor store, you're going to get a deduction from 10% to 9, 8, 7, 6, or 4, depending on the category. And that's category specific. So if I'm listing consumer electronics, my final value fee is not going to be 10%, it's going to be 6, which is substantially cheaper. Most categories fall into the 9% category, or 9% savings, but at least it's an extra full percentage point. And I know that doesn't sound like an awful lot, but truthfully, it is an awful lot if you're doing a pretty high volume in sales dollars per month, okay? So the moral of the story here is, guys, most of you guys for your first few weeks are not going to have a store. You're going to just do the standard selling, and you're going to get used to it. But once you start doing some more in sales and you get doing a higher volume of listings, consult with your coach, and it would probably be time at that point to get an eBay store. You don't have to, but it would make sense financially, probably. You'll save a bunch of money that way, okay? So that's just some of the differences in stores versus standard listings. Questions about that? If you do, go ahead and put them in. Otherwise, we're going to continue on here. I want to do a couple of examples with you guys, okay? Here we are on our agenda. We're at examples. Let's do some examples, okay? So I'm going to give you guys a scenario, and I want you to tell me how much we're going to end up paying in fees. And we'll maybe take it a step further than that. So here's the scenario. I'm going to write it out right here. Okay, we're going to say you're selling, so you have no store, okay? You're a normal seller, no eBay store. This is your 43rd listing of the month, okay? You are selling in the electronics category. It's an auction style listing, we'll say. These are our assumptions here. Hold on. Let me bring this up a little bit, okay? Let's say you listed the item for $145. That's going to be our selling price. Okay, that's what you listed it for. It was an auction, so we'll say you started the auction at $145 and you got one bid, so you sold it for $145. So we'll say it did sell, it sold. Here's the question. What are my eBay and PayPal fees? I'm going to give you guys a sec to think about that. And I just kind of came up with this off the cuff. So let me work through this as well. What are the eBay fees and what are the PayPal fees? Work through it for a sec. Okay, anybody got it yet? Or do I need to give you just another minute? If you're here live with me, go ahead and put whatever answer you come up with in the chat window. So I want to know what are total eBay fees. I'm going to write this right here, eBay, question mark, and PayPal, question mark. What are those? Actually, I'm going to put a colon here so we can fill this in. Seen some different answers come in. So let's do eBay first. So first of all, guys, for eBay, did we have an insertion fee here? We did, right? Because it was our 43rd listing. And we didn't have an eBay store. We just had a normal account, 43rd listing. We had a 30-cent insertion fee. So we'll put 30 cents plus we sold it, right? So we have a final value fee. So 145 was our sales price. We have to multiply that by 10%. 1450 would be our final value fee, which equals a grand total of 1480 that eBay would bill us. And they would bill us this amount not right away. That would just accumulate over the month with your other sales, and then they would bill you at the end of the month. Okay? So 1480. Yeah, most of you guys pretty close on that. Looks like it. Okay, good. PayPal. So PayPal, definitely, if we sold the item, we're going to be paying a PayPal fee. PayPal is, remember, 2.9%, so I'm going to take $145 and I'm going to multiply that by 0.029. That's 2.9%, and that would actually round up to $4.21. But that's not it, remember. There's also a 30-cent transaction fee for PayPal. So you're at $4.51, right? We all pretty close there, guys? It looks like it. Most of you guys were pretty close there. Okay. Here's the catch, though. And Brenda, you caught on to this. If it's an auction style listing and we sell the item, this gets refunded to us right here. Okay? So we don't actually pay an insertion fee. That gets refunded back. So it's actually not going to be 30 cents. We'll get that money back. It'll be $14.50. We'll only pay a final value fee on it. That's the new change with eBay. Auctions get refunded to you if you sell them. Okay? That's not that big of a deal. If it was a fixed price item, we would have gotten a 30-cent fee, but that's something to consider then, right? You would have gotten that reimbursed. Good. I'm glad you caught that, Brenda. Okay. Let's do another example then. So we're going to say you guys have a basic level store. This is your 91st listing of the month. We're going to say you're in the we're going to say you sold some patio furniture. Okay? Whatever category that falls into, patio furniture. We're going to say this is a fixed price listing. And we'll say you sold this for $440, and it was sold. Run the numbers on that for me then, guys. There's our assumptions, our eBay fees and our PayPal fees. Let's figure them out real quick. We're going to do this a little faster this time too, but I'll give you a second to think about it. I've got to work through it as well. All right, guys. So let's do eBay first. So if it's a basic level store, that does impact us, right? And it impacts us in a couple of ways. You have more free listings every month. Of course, we would have paid $20 a month for the store. It's just a fixed fee, but we'd have more free listings. And let's go back to this diagram real quick. If we have a basic level store, we get up to 150 listings for free that are fixed price, okay? Our assumption was this was a fixed price item, so there was no insertion fee on this. So the only fee that we had on this, because we sold it, was the final value fee. And that's usually 10%. But remember, guys, when you have a store, it's less than 10%. As you guys learned about just a few minutes ago, the store gets it to you for a lower final value fee. So as a piece of furniture, it would probably be in this category here, the 9% category, because it's not motor parts, it's not a musical instrument, it's not electronics, and it's not heavy equipment. It would be this 9% category. So instead of the 10%, it would be at 9%. So you do the math on that. 440 times 0.09. That's only $39.60 that we're paying out to eBay. Okay. Whoops, not $29.60, $39.60. 9% of 440, which is a pretty considerable savings, right? Because it would have been $44. We saved, $4 on it or whatever. So that's not bad. Yeah, a lot of you guys forgot about the benefit of the store. A lot of you guys said, yeah, it's $44, right? Well, no, close, but since it's a store, we get a little bit of a discount, don't we? Good. All right, but PayPal is the same, isn't it? So 440 times 0.029, that's $12.76 plus, and let me write this out, PayPal, $12.76, right? plus 0.30 for the transaction fee. So what's that? 1306. That's your total right there. 1306, right? Okay. You guys pretty clear on that? I don't. Let's not do any more examples. I think, but for most of you guys that are just starting, just remember, 10% for eBay, 3% for PayPal. It's a good way just to kind of get a round number. So if I'm in my head thinking about listing something for sale, I can say, okay, well, whatever I list for sale, if it sells, I've got to remember 13% is just going to come off the top. If I sell something for $45, multiply that by 13%, and you'll say, okay, well, about $6 is going out the door. That way you can do some quick mental math knowing that it's around 13%. Now, that's not counting the little potential insertion fee or the transaction fee, but that'll give you a good rough estimate, okay? Now, it's fairly substantial on higher priced items, right? I mean, you saw that right here. You sell something for $440. We had nearly $40 going out the door to eBay, another $12 to PayPal. Like that it ends up really adding up, and that's why we like to make sure you guys are really good on these fees. We've used this program called SaleCalc in the past, and I'm going to just bring this up briefly. SaleCalc.com. They don't use it yet because they haven't updated for the new changes. So these fees are current right here as of March 1st, 2015. Don't use it yet because none of these new changes are working with this calculator. This might be something you can use in the future. We won't touch base on it much right now, but just so you know. Okay, so let me scroll up here. This we already alluded to just a few minutes ago. Why does eBay charge fees? Well, that's how they stay in business as a company. They make their money off of our selling fees. And yes, it's 10% and it's 3% for PayPal. And yes, it is substantial for us as sellers. It's something we have to factor into our prices. But I feel like it's fair. PayPal or eBay is a giant company. They're bringing you the customers. You have no marketing expense. You're simply putting products up for sale and people are finding them. For 13% or for a 10% eBay fee, I feel like that's a pretty darn good deal. Okay. And then last but not least, how do I pay my eBay fees? And I only say eBay there because PayPal doesn't matter. They're going to charge you the minute the money hits your PayPal account. If I pay you $100 through PayPal today for a product that I bought on eBay, you're only going to see 97 of those dollars, right? Because 3% is going out the door, roughly, right? So, and then at the end of the month, eBay is going to invoice you for a certain amount, and you can see that on your eBay account. The way you go to see your invoice is I'll go to my eBay on this account right here. Okay. And we're going to go to account. Here's your account tab. There we go. And then right when you get to your account tab, you're going to have this section right here. You've got an account summary, which will show you your fees. Okay. And right down here, you can see very specifically all your fees laid out for you. Each insertion fee, each final value fee, they'll all be listed here. You just have to click on one of these links. Now, this is kind of a dummy account, so this isn't going to show you anything today. But I'm saying go to your My eBay section, go to your account tab, and you'll see it right here. You'll have the option below to make a payment to eBay through either a credit card or through your PayPal account to pay for those fees once a month. eBay should email you a reminder on how much you owe and that you need to pay. Okay? Just make sure you do. I had a client in the past that just decided to not do it and see how long he could go not paying the eBay fees, and a few weeks later eBay wouldn't even let him log in. They said, hey, you have to pay your fees, or you can't even log into your account. So you gotta keep up to date on those. Just again, once a month, and they're usually pretty good. They'll give you a grace period, but they expect you to pay. Okay. All right, so I think I'm going to finish up with that. I feel like we've covered enough here today, guys, to where you should be able to explain this to someone else with some level of succinctness. I mean, really, there's two types of eBay fees: insertion and a final value fee, and there's also a PayPal fee, right? And if you guys know what those are, 10% final value, 3% PayPal, which is really 2.9%, but we're rounding it to 3. And then the insertion fee depends on how many listings you've done during the month, and we've talked about that. You should have a pretty good idea of what to expect when you're listing items on eBay. Okay? I'll leave it open for questions just for 1 sec, and then we'll finish up. In fact, I'll probably turn off the recording right now. If you've got any questions and you're watching this recorded, please contact your coach, and we'd be happy to help you out.